All right, Rob. We've seen, I believe, another bill passed for small business loans. Nancy Pelosi finally got off her butt and helped pass the business loan. But we've seen a lot of these small business loans and business loans going to companies who do not need the help. We talked about last time Harvard receiving funds.
Yep.
I also read an article that the Los Angeles Lakers received a multi-million-dollar small business loan.
Yep.
Which they were guilted into returning, apparently, they claim. But what do you think? Is the government doing enough for the businesses?
Yeah. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because my background is in business. And just a couple of things here. With Harvard and the MBA, there was another, I think it was a Shake Shack, and another company that also applied, and they got the funds. Now, they said that they're going to return the funds, and I believe that they will. And they said that they really didn't want the funds. But then my question goes, okay, but in order to get the funds, you have to apply for the funds. Okay. So it's like, what was the intent? I think Harvard's intent was to pay their cafeteria workers and custodial workers because they didn't want to pay them out of their huge endowments. So they thought, well, hey, why should we pay them? Let the government pay. Which is the thought of a lot of big liberal institutions. Why should we do it? Let the government do it. It's always let the government do it. Whereas you have the money to do it, but let the government do it. There was a guy on TV today. He was with this group. I wish I could remember the name. The Connolly Group or something. CEO. And the CEO got a bonus of, I think, $1.5 million. And he said that of that money, he's going to return it and divide it with his employees. Because he felt that, hey, this is a company and we want to live by our values. And living by our values is looking after one another. And I thought that was so commendable. Now, just in case some of you have been sleeping on a stone, March and April is when companies give out bonuses. I have not heard of any corporation who's decided they're going to give back their bonus to the or to their staffers and say, hey, we're in this together, we're going to help you. Because it wasn't your fault that we had to take the economy offline, But we do need you to help us keep the company going. No one has done it. And that would be such a show of support if a lot of these CEOs would do it. Now, that being said, going back to the small business loans, again, I have a background in it. And I think, the intention was good. I don't think it was explained to the degree, to the infinite details, and it shouldn't have to have been. But here's what happens. So the government sets it up and says, hey, we're going to give these loans to all these different companies. And all you have to do is apply, and that's it. Okay. But the devil is always in the details. And what happened is that a lot of these small companies went into these big banks and said, hey, we want to apply for this loan. We heard that the government is giving it to us. And the bank says, yeah, they are. And we have the money, but this is what you have to do. We have to know that you are who you say you are, just like an individual. We need your corporate resolutions. We need this. We need that. We need to know how many people work for you. We need to know who your suppliers are, who you do business with. It's called Know Your Client. And I spoke about this before in one of our previous podcasts. But I don't think people are aware that these banks, they might have the money, but they're not just going to give it to you until they've done their due diligence. Also, the banks have to have a mechanism in how to track these loans so that they can report it back to the federal government. So that's one part of it. The other part is that you have smaller banks or smaller lending institutions who probably wanted to participate in this, money to small businesses, but didn't have the wherewithal. So what do? They go in and they team up with a larger bank. The larger bank goes to the small institution and says, okay, we know that your ABC Bank is small town USA, but we also have to do our due diligence on you. So we need to know who you are, who your executives are, who the signers are, and so on and thereafter. And again, a lot of these companies don't have that information. A lot of the mom and pop stores, they probably had it. They never updated it. They probably changed the signers. So it was put on hold, and those companies who did have their information, they gave the money to them. So by the time the small mom and pops came up with, oh, here's all of our bank documents, the money was gone. So it wasn't that they didn't want to give them the money. It was more so those companies that have their information, have their paperwork together, first in, we're going to give the money to them while you get your information together. And it probably took them a couple of weeks or more to get it together, once they turned it in, the money was gone. So it wasn't that they didn't want to give them the money, but it was that the money had dried up because they gave it to those individuals who had all their paperwork. So I think that and the media knows this, but they're not explaining it that way. They're just saying, oh, the money's gone. And you don't want to give the money to these people because you gave it to these big companies. No, those companies had their documentation in place. And the smaller companies didn't. Now, I think that they're getting it in place. They're getting their information. So hopefully with the next rollout, they'll be able to get some of the money. But that's the whole story behind it. That's, if you have your information together, you went in, you were approved. If you did it, unfortunately, it didn't happen.
Absolutely.